education and people leading the change. Before coming to the book itself, I would like to set the context for us why the landscape of K-12 education in Pakistan is very problematic and why the country is in a learning crisis and why the state is in educational emergency. So, as all of us know, Pakistan is the 5th largest country in the world with roughly 250 million people. The population of school-going age children is about 75 million. Out of these 75 million, roughly around 25 million children, and the number moves here and there, but that's a rough number, are out of school. Now this term out of school, I'll elaborate further. And with the remaining 50 million, 75% of the kids are in learning poverty. Now what's learning poverty? Learning poverty is that by the age 10, they are not able to read or understand anything that is age appropriate to them. Like, read a simple sentence, do a single digit math or something. And that's left us, with roughly around 12 million kids. And even the ones who are enrolled in schools, like enrolled in kindergarten grade 1, by the time they reach 12th grade, 91 out of 100 get dropped. So हर 100 बच्चे जो स्कूल में दाखिल होते हैं, उनमें से सिर्फ 9 बच्चे जो हैं वो 12वीं जमात पास कर पाते हैं, जिसे हम पाकिस्तान में we call it intermediate, पंजाब में people call it FA, FSC, different names, but 12th grade, like high school in the US. So that's the crisis we are dealing with.
So what's the percentage?
91% drop out by the time they reach 12th grade, which is high school in the US. Now why? So this is the learning crisis.
So it's a clarifying question. 25 million तो गए ही नहीं
Yes.
इसमें, और जो गए
जो गए उनमें से जो है, so out of 50 million जो स्कूल जा पाते हैं उनमें so they are in learning poverty. They are not reading, learning age appropriate, and the ones who got into schools उनमें से भी by the time they reach 12th grade 91 drop out.
तो सिर्फ 9% पास करते हैं.
So no, for the ones that get enrolled in the first
grade.
yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a very economist question though. I know. So,
It's frightening. Sorry.
yeah. No, so I just wanted to set the context of why there is a learning crisis, why the country is in a state of educational emergency, and then and again, a lot of people are familiar with the U.S. context. In the U.S., school education K-12 is the town or the city subject. In Pakistan, the country came into being in 1947, but till the year 2010, I know a lot of you knew so many people who ruled country. People were talking about Bhutto, Ayub, Zia, and so on and so forth. Until 2010, education was a federal subject in Pakistan, which means that the entire education system of the country was being run from Islamabad or whatever the capital was. Initially it was Karachi and then it was Islamabad. And in 2010, they had a constitutional amendment in the constitution of the country, and they devolved the powers from the federal government to the provincial government, and education was one of the subjects. That was important to mention because even today, education is dealt by the provincial administrations, by the state governments in Pakistan, as we can draw an analogy with the US. And why there is a learning crisis? Because these provinces so it's not just a money problem. They allocate around 20%, 18 to 20% of their financial budget to education. And even then, and the rest of the 80% is for health, policing, infrastructure, agriculture, irrigation, you name the sector. And still we are dealing with this crisis. And if you combine the people that the federal government and these state governments employ in the country, the number exceeds the number of people employed in the paramilitary forces of the country. पूरे मुल्क में जितने असातिज़ा हैं या मुख्तलिफ महकमा तालीम में जो लोग काम करते हैं, if you combine that number, the number is more than our army, navy, air force, coast guard, rangers, and all FC, all of them combined. So again, they are putting in money. There are this number of people, but still the kids are not learning what they should. So that's the crisis that we, unfortunately, when we did this book, this was the crisis. We started writing this book in 2015. We worked on this for 6 years. And here I want to mention my very dear friend, the late Amjad Noorani, who's also from the community. He lived in the Bay Area for about 55 years. And he was associated with TCF, especially with their US fundraising organization, and he remained with them as a volunteer for 20 years of his life. He retired at the age of 54. He was 76 when he passed away. So 22 years he volunteered. He dedicated his life to this mission of education. And the reason we wanted to write this book, Amjad Noorani was so invested in Pakistan's education, and he loved the children so deeply and dearly. He started writing emails to academics in the US, in the UK, Europe, and the Western world to write a book on Pakistan's K-12 education. Because before this book, and perhaps after that as well, there is not even a single book that does a holistic K-12 educational landscape analysis of the country. This is the challenge that we deal with, or we were dealing with.
Is it a low priority?
Yeah, it's a low priority. People love to talk about talk shows. People love to talk about who was put in jail by whom, who did what, and so many things. So anyway, so that was the one of the reasons that we wanted to initiate a discourse and a dialogue. That country's education is in crisis, and as typically MSA would know better than me, academics do. Most of them would either not respond or would respond very late or with not a lot of enthusiasm. So he did that for a few months, and then he decided that we should take it on us and should start writing this book. Now, for the context, as I said, so this is what we were dealing with, and we did not want to just paint this bleak picture and this devastating future for our generations. If for a second, I know this is not the right imagination, but if for a second all of us who are sitting on this table, if for few moments we just imagine कि अगर हम स्कूल ना गए होते, had we not been to school at all, किसी भी तरह की स्कूल, when we say 25 million children, they are not in madrasas, they are not in government schools, they are not in private schools, they're not in any sort of classroom environment or a learning environment. So if we imagine that if I take education out of my life, or if I was not lucky enough to go and attend school, what would it would have been for me, or what it would have been for all of us. I think what we would imagine would unfortunately won't be very promising. We might not have been got where we were able to PhD economics, UC Davis and stuff like that. People, I know a lot of people around this table, all of you are very accomplished in lives, mashallah. So that would not have happened. So education, as in every country and in every corner of the world, is a fundamental human right, and it should be that way. And the government in Pakistan does recognize that. The constitution say, there is an article called Article 25A that says that every child aged 5 to 16 should receive free and compulsory education in the country. But still, it's part of the constitution that they included in 2010 when they had the 18th constitutional amendment. But that's still not the case. So that's the challenge, that's the context. That's why, and as MSA mentioned in the beginning, Pakistan has world's highest number of out-of-school children, or sometimes it number second after Nigeria. So Nigeria and Pakistan compete that way. So it's very unfortunate, so that's how we wanted to write this book, and this book, as I said, was an attempt to have people talk about this crisis, be in Pakistan or people who deeply care about the children there and not living there. I gave you this example. Amjad Noorani was not living in Pakistan. He was living here right in the Bay Area. And he wanted to share Pakistan's children's struggles, their plight to the rest of the world. So that was the context in which the book was written. Now coming to the book itself, some people might have heard about this organization. I know some of our friends, especially Sohail Siddiqui Saab, was mentioning about the Citizens Foundation. So the Citizens Foundation, abbreviated as TCF, is a non-profit in Pakistan and is one of the organizations and the founders and people who've been running this organization are the folks that we have called agents of change. Not just them, but others as well. That when the challenge is very huge and is at such a scale, there are still people who are trying to play their part and push it forward. So hence the name Agents of Change. And in that we sort of did an analysis, documented organizations and individuals that are working in Pakistan's K-12 educational scale. And I think most of you would know, people who've been to schools in Pakistan, how many of you have studied up till grade 12 or any of that in Pakistan? Yeah. So for our good friends, so in Pakistan we have, we're discussing about something related to race, but with education, we have a class-based education system in the country. Which in this book as well, and broadly there is a consensus, we divide that in 4 major categories. The upper middle class people, or people who are generally called elite in the country, they send their kids to O-levels or A-levels educational system, which is called the Cambridge system, and the kids who attend that are roughly around 4% only out of the kids who go to school. Then there is another category which is the government schools, where people go to study till 10th or 12th grade, but there is a huge what I would say, flaw in the planning of those schools. I give you an example of Sindh. Most of people know Sindh is one of Pakistan's provinces. In Sindh, out of all the public schools, 90% of schools are just primary schools. So, and the remaining 10% schools are middle school, secondary schools, higher secondary schools, which means that there is not enough number of schools for kids who are graduating from the primary schools grade 5th to go to grade 6. Hence the dropout by the time they reach the 12th grade.
It's like a funnel.
Yeah, it's like so you don't have enough number of post-primary schools so that the kids could transit to to the secondary schools.
5 minutes.
So I'll just sum it up, and I'm mostly interested in responding to your questions. I've been in the education space. Apart from this book, when I was at the World Bank, I worked with their education practice as part of the government there too. I was part of the strategic reform unit, trying to do different things. So I talked about TCF, but there are other organizations as well. Teach for America in the US. There is a Teach for Pakistan in Pakistan. There is another organization called Teach the World Foundation. They build micro schools to help kids, do the basic learning. Then there is Zindagi. So there are some non-profits that are working in the space, but not at the scale as TCF does. And so I was just mentioning that they are building one school every 4 or 5 days. These days is a great supporter, and that's actually true. I have a few copies, happy to share it with people who are interested in reading this, and I'm more interested in engaging with all of you on responding to the questions, whatever comes to your minds on country's K-12 education, and of course related to this book as well.
Excellent. Very good summary. Very thought-provoking. Raises a lot of questions. So how many people have questions that they want to ask?
The statistics that you have,
Just getting a count on how many people want to ask a question so I can do the sequencing. So how many people want to just raise your hand so I can see it? Okay, so we have just over half a dozen questions, and I have a question as well. So let's begin. Let's begin from this side, and we just go around. Please limit your question to 2 minutes, and your answer to around 2 or 3
Question should be less than 2 minutes. I think it should be 10-second question and then let him get answer over there.
Maybe 1 minute question.
Full section.
He meant 2 minutes for him to ask that
So,
question.
very simple question that I believe that Pakistani government does have some, I'm assuming some funding allocated to TCF at all.
So very good question. They don't, as a practice or as a regular mean of funding, but they have this concept called public-private partnership, in which a lot of, Pakistan's provincial governments have started supporting these non-profits who are working in education and health, and give them per child or per patient sort of a support. So there are schools that TCF is building the physical infrastructure and everything, and the governments in Sindh, part of Punjab, initially in KP as well, committed that for the 5 or 10 years, whatever number of kids study in school and whatever per child cost of TCF is, they will support that. So there are public-private partnership examples, but that's not part of their regular budget feature.
So what